Gonna take some work, you know, to get it in shape. But once we do, hey kid, you feel that, right? It's humid down here, dark. You know what thrives in a place like this?
Mushrooms?
Bingo. Yeah, mushrooms. Welcome to our new base of operations.
This fucking place. Calling me home.
I've been wanting you since the day I met you.
Greetings, citizens of Gotham City, and welcome back to another episode of The Penguins Mightier, where I'm covering every episode of Max or HBO, wherever the hell you call it, of their original series, The Penguin, here on Geek Mentality, the podcast, and of course at the Fans Not Experts YouTube channel, which you might be watching this at right now. This episode is called Homecoming. It is the 5th episode of this series, this season. I'm still not sure exactly yet. It is something that it premiered last night, yet I couldn't watch it last night. So I watched it this morning before work. And now I'm going to try to go mostly with memory about what I thought of it. And even though I have it on in the background, I took no notes, which is kind of my my brand. If I have a brand, it's just kind of off the cuff, no notes, spewing thoughts that aren't really all that original, but for some reason I feel the need to share them with the universe. This episode's called Homecoming, and I think that had a multiple use kind of meaning for many characters. We have Sophia. She definitely kind of got a bit of a homecoming. We have Oz. We have Oz's mom. We have Vic. All of them kind of have this homecoming type feel. And there's even one other person who I think might have found a home by the end of this episode. It opened up going right back to where we were with, I like the recap kind of put it in chronological order. It showed like everything that went on with Sophia, and then it showed the moment where Oz and Vic left her for dead because she knows the truth. She had her own episode. Now we jump over to the Penguin and Vic, and they're burning the car. He talks about that same story that he told Sophia's brother, and he laughed in her face. He laughed in his face, and of course Oz killed him. Told him the same story about the car, and this was his chariot. And but thank you, you came back. He's happy that Vic showed some loyalty, and I think that really does mean a lot to him. And it seems like no matter what, Penguin's pivoting. And I feel like at some point, maybe he will embrace the name. I don't know if in the comics Oz ever embraced the name, or if it was something that he just completely, found insulting and did not like it. I don't know. In the show right now, Penguin's almost an insult, because he waddles and he's kind of, big nosified. But he sure knows how to pivot. It's like, this door closed. Let's jump over to this one. This happened. He was ready, so ready to work with Sophia with these mushrooms. Then Maroni's wife shows up. She's like, "Oh, you son of a bitch." And he is like, uh-oh. She exposed him. She stole the mushrooms. And Oz is like, well, forget Sophia. She's a house without a family. Or is she? And we have to focus on getting my mushrooms back, getting this shipment back. He wants to take over for that. So to do that, he goes and kidnaps Maroney's son right away. And he's like, this is the next thing we're going to do. He brings it to them, goes right to the person, goes, look, I have your son. Get me the mushrooms. I'll get you the son. Throw me the whip. I'll throw you the, I forget exactly what it is. But you know what I'm talking about. Meanwhile, over at the Falcone house, it's still the Falcone house at this point. We kind of get the aftermath of the gas leak that killed everyone in the family. Luckily, Sophia was hiding with her niece. There was some fighting going on or something, and she didn't think anyone should see that, so she went out into the greenhouse. This is her story. And she talked about Johnny Vitti being the only one who survived. She talked about, there was a fight. I think maybe he was seeing my uncle's wife. So all that, she's kind of planting seeds. And this this chief of police, he is from the Batman. So there's another tie into the Batman. This guy played the same character. And I know him more from, what is it, A Flag Called Death? Is that what the show is? It's a funny pirate show. He was on there. So he's like, what do you think? He had a very raspy voice. And he's like, this is very suspicious, isn't it? And Sophia's like, what are you doing out here? All of a sudden, you seem to care about this family dying. Is that because you're not going to get your kickbacks anymore? Like, she called him out on it. And he was suspicious of her. She didn't seem to be afraid at all of him. And she's just like, I don't know where Johnny Vitti is. But it turns out she does know where Johnny Vitti is. She has him tied up and in a mausoleum in some kind of prison. And she's going to kill him. But he's like, look, you need me. Your mother was my cousin. I loved her. I introduced them. I didn't mean for this to happen. She was going to leave. She was going to leave him and all this funky stuff. He basically, it seems like he bought himself a second chance. And I am not sure if he actually did or if what happens to him ended up being kind of just a spur of the moment thing. I'm not entirely sure. Meanwhile, Oz has some of his guys and Vic keeping the Maroney son captive inside his girlfriend's house. And she is not into this. She does not like this. So basically, at a certain point, they're like, we are going to now trade the Maroney son for the mushrooms. And she's like, I don't want any part of this. I don't like you guys. You're holding this over my head. I don't like this being in my house. Don't have this here. She does not want this at all in her apartment. So that while that's going on, Vic's like, I need to do more. What do I do? And he's like, Oz is like, you got to go check with my mom. You have to go take care of my mom. So he's basically on babysitting duty. And I guess I'll just run through that. He takes the mom to the one place where he doesn't think anyone will even care to look. That's Crown Point, I think is what it's called. And it's where he's like, nobody cares about Crown Point. And that's where he thought, you'll be safe here. He brings her there. But he's like, come on, we have to go. There's Squid, his not his friend, this guy who he's afraid of, Squid, who we saw in the flashback episode. He's like, we have to hide. We have to get around. We have to get into this house before he sees them. He does see them, but nothing happens with that in the end of this episode. But she goes in. She's like, oh, you brought me into the shithole. And it reminds her too much of the place where she lived in with her boys growing up. And that was her sense of homecoming and Vic's sense of homecoming, that he had to go back to his home, his area, to hide this woman who grew up in a similar area, maybe not that exact place, but close enough. And she hated it. But he fed to the mom that, all the Falcones are dead. And he told her that Oz did it. And that was kind of his way of saying, oh, yeah, your son did it. He took care of everything. He's the man. He's trying to build him up. So we have Vic with the mom. Meanwhile, we have Oz bringing the Maroney boy back to Mrs. Maroney. And this is where you're like, oh, this is getting a little crazy. This is where you realize that you're kind of rooting for a guy who is a villain. And there's a reason he's a villain. He's a stone cold killer and he is a villain. And even though we're rooting for him, the reason I can say that is because when he brings Maroney's son back to the mother, the guy's walking over, he's all bound up, and he's wet. And why is he wet? Not because he's covered in water, because he's covered in gasoline. And Oz takes a lighter, throws a match, lights up, burns this kid alive, burns the mother alive, kills the son and the mother of Maroney. Then pays a guard to try to kill and stab Maroney. Maroney ends up taking the knife, stabbing the guard, and escaping prison. And at the end, it seems like there's going to be a big war ready to take on Oz. Not just Maroney alone, but Maroney and a different family. And who is that family? Well, Sophia Falcone shows up in the at the house with all her, lieutenants, all her family members, the mafia family members. And Johnny Vitti, he's like, pay attention, the lady's here. And you realize, he's the new, second in command or whatever. He's basically her right-hand man. Well, she's like, we are no longer the Falcone family. We are now the Gigante family. And that is her mother's maiden name. I saw afterwards that in the comics, she married into the Gigante family. But for this show, they made the Gigante the mother's maiden name. And now she's like, the Falcone family is dead. We are now the Gigante family, and we're going to do things a little differently. And Johnny Vitti's like, wait a second. I'm not sure this is a good idea. She takes out a gun, blows his brains up. He's dead. She kept him captive, made him feel like he was about to, die, then brought him into the family. Now, my question is, was this always the plan? You are my right-hand man until you question me once, and then I will prove to everyone just how ruthless I am by shooting you after one disagreement. And, well, that's what happened. I wonder if that was the plan the entire time. She takes out all this money because she asked Johnny Vitti, where's my dad keep his stash? Or was it where Luca keeps the stash? Wherever the stash was, she pours this money out. She goes, there's going to be more for all of us. Go on, take it. It's covered in blood. Vitti is lying on the table, dead, blood everywhere. And, but she's like, go on. It's great. This is, take it. And they take it. They don't care if there's blood on it. Her story ends with her going to, right? I think that's all we really get from her. Am I correct? Where then she ends up with, I forgot to say, her psychiatrist, Theo Rossi. I think he had a homecoming also. So Sophia's homecoming is, I'm home now. This is my house, my family, my home. That's her homecoming. I think Theo Rossi, her psychiatrist, also had a homecoming. He's like, this is where I belong. He is going to become the number 2, I think, in place of Johnny Vitti. We don't need Vitti. We got Dr. Needy, because he seems to be in love with her. So no Vitti, just the Needy. But I feel like that is pretty much the rest of the story with her. It just ends with her showing up at the very end. She found out wherever Maroney was hiding. She's like, look, this war needs to end. She says how she talks about the Penguin and how he's kind of playing both sides, right? Didn't you say that? We need to squash that. We need to take over the city, the two of us together. And that's where the story seems to end. The Falcone, the Maroney and the Gigante family are going to team up and be one super family. So I thought that was kind of cool. And the last homecoming we get, Oz shows up at the house. He's like, thank you for watching for my mother. It reminded me of her, He tries to comfort his mother, but she's really kind of a B word to him. He's like, thank you, Vic, for doing this. I really appreciate it. And he's going through some coins and he finds a subway token, and it reminds him of these old underground subways that got shut down years ago. He and Vic leave and they go break into one of these subways. They walk for a while. He's like, I used to walk these tunnels with my brothers all the time. We still don't really know what happened with his brothers yet. But he ends up down in this kind of open space area, the station. It's abandoned, but there are a couple of generators there. One had a little gas in it left. He turned it on, and he's like, "What do you think of this? This could be our new base of operation." The lights go out because those generators are probably sitting there for a while, but it's like, here is our new home. Here is our homecoming. So at the end, even though they had that homecoming, that kind of not thematic, I can't even think of the word, the homecoming for the apartment that just reminded them of homecoming, of their house, of their upbringing. Now they're getting an actual homecoming because they're going to take over that underground lair and turn it into the Penguins' new base of operations. A lot of the mushrooms that even with, killing the wife and the son of Maroney, some fire detection steam went off or whatever the hell you call it, and it ruined a lot of the mushrooms. There were still 2 barrels of mushrooms available. So now can they grow stuff? Because that's one of the things he's like, it's good under here with humidity. It's pretty dark and humid and moist. It's good under here. It's the terrible penguin. And Vic's like, mushrooms? And you realize they're going to start growing their magic penguin mushrooms in the underground. I just shook my camera a little bit. And that is it. That is kind of this episode of The Penguin. It was quite good, as usual. Some crazy stuff went down. The story progressed. The characters, you start to see the beginning of the Penguin. This is all the beginning of the Penguin. Remember, he's just a driver who kind of moves up in the world. And he's trying to move up. I mean, he is kind of the crime kingpin of Gotham. You got the Joker who's crazy. You got the Riddler who's cuckoo bananas. But the Penguin was kind of like the organized crime version of the Gotham criminals. But of course, that's also dealing with the Falcones and the Maronis, and of course now the Gigantes. I don't remember if at some point the Maronis and Falcones kind of move into the back and kind of disappear because of the super criminal element that takes over Gotham. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's different stories, different tellings all the time. But I'm enjoying this one, even though my camera and microphone are a little weird. I'm just recording this through Zoom tonight because I thought it'd be quicker. But I enjoyed it. Good episode. And I'm looking forward to continuing this awesome series. It's way better than, I keep telling people, my brother's like, I keep hearing how great it is. I think I'm going to give in. But it's like way better than, I shouldn't say it's way better than expected. Well, maybe it's way better than expected. But I didn't want to say it's better than it deserves to be or than it ought to be, because it's as good as people make it. But that's it. Listen, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Mastodon.social, all that fun stuff, Ed Geek Mentality. The Facebook page is Fans Not Experts. The YouTube channel is Fans Not Experts. And the website is fansnotexperts.com. This is the Penguin's Mightier, part of Geek Mentality. And why is the show called Geek Mentality? Oh, wait. How do we know it's Geek Mentality? Oh, wait. I don't know what I'm saying, but I do know this. Here is my theme song. This is my podcast. I made it. Geek Mentality's what I named it. And I think you should listen and subscribe, 'cause I'm kinda funny and awesome. I think that I'm worth your time, and I'm kinda handsome. My mom says, please listen and please subscribe. At least listen to this episode.
Fans Not Experts.